Hey guys, this will be video 3 for the how to restore a 1981 Fender Stratocaster Maui Blue from the International Series. And as I joke, probably just about any guitar that might have some damage. So I almost deleted video 2 last night, but I watched it a second time. And I think there's actually some pretty good information in there if you're willing to just kind of kick back and just listen and watch, especially when I got to the middle of the video where I was doing the tap tone analysis of the blonde Limba, the Carina, which is just it's an unbelievable wood. So and it reminded me of like why I like working with it. But back to this guitar, to and I only did video 2 last night. So as soon as I finished the video, I actually went ahead and I glued that side of the body up and did all the clamp work, left this side undone because I want to make certain that I really focused on the penetration of all the glue, because I elected to go ahead and use the tight bond for the repair. And I think it was a really, really wise move, because once I flip the body over in a minute, we might be able to see the glue line repair, and it's almost invisible. Whereas if you're not careful, epoxy will create a real dark glue up line, and especially in a lighter colored wood. And the as I continued watching the few videos that I've done related to this body, this thing is incredibly photogenic, and it's just such a beautiful guitar. And in person, I can see the glue up line here or there, but only because I'm looking for it. And I had to each time I watched the video, like video 1 or video 2, I kept thinking, I was like, man, that thing is really beautiful. So with that said, I think this guitar definitely could possibly pass as a clear coat guitar. Whether I did that work or not, that's irrelevant. But that's what I meant by, I think in video 2 where I was talking about, or it might have been at the end of video 1 where I kept saying, when you're doing a renovation, just because it's got paint all in it right now, make certain that you do that renovation with the possibility that someone might want to clear coat the guitar, especially if it reminds them of a guitar when they were a kid, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why I mentioned video 1. One guy would want to do a black pickguard, and one would want to do a tortoise. And then someone might want to turn this thing into an Eddie Van Halen Bumblebee. And I'm not laughing about that. That's actually, if there's ever a body that would nail that tone, this is it right here, bar none, for certain. This is the body to build off of to get that sound. And I think I'm correct in saying that the Bumblebee was the guitar that was heavier, and it was the North American Ash body, which is exactly what this is from 1981. So it was definitely in that era. A couple of few years after he was experimenting with the Strat, builds the parts caster builds and stuff. So with that said, in video 2, as I mentioned at the end, I've kind of felt like I was really processing through this build and answering my own questions. Even though the nitrocellulose lacquer would have been absolutely fine, there's a very strong possibility that when you flip this guitar over, especially if you clear coated it, well, if you did clear coat it, I should say, then there's a possibility you would see those 2 dark glue lines, and then you would be like trying to shoot the body a real dark amber, and then it might only create a darker accent with the glue lines. So I chose to go with the tight bond. But the only reason I chose to go with the tight bond is because I was able to open this body up so much, and using gravity to my advantage with the body standing up, I was able to literally just sit there for about 30 minutes and just let the glue kind of drop out of the bottle and give it a little bit of encouragement and squeeze, and then monitor with a moist cloth. Most of you guys know this, but monitor with a moist cloth. And I learned a trick that I had never done before, but this worked out incredibly well because everything about it was you're working with your hands, and that's another reason I wanted to work with a tight bind because it's so clean. If I had have, and if I don't say this, I might forget. If I had have used the epoxy, um, there's a strong possibility that it would have been an incredibly messy job, but I might have contaminated some of the original as well. So I just thought it was best since the wood and the brake was so clean, there was no decade after decade of paint after repaint seeping down in that body. I felt really confident by the time I got everything clamped up, you know, on the vertical axis, and then with my large quick grip there, making certain that everything was pulled together and that like nothing was spreading apart. And it worked out incredibly well. That glue joint dried for about 16 hours, and typically when you do, I would consider that a non-load bearing glue joint, even though you might think, well, you want it to be really strong. Well, just hear me out for a second. Um, if you're doing a load bearing glue joint, then yes, you would want that to dry for like probably 2 to 3 days at a minimum before you start putting really a stressful load on that. But I knew that because see, immediately after I got that glue joint finished, I wanted to expedite the build or the repair, and but I didn't want to tear this 16-year-old glue joint over here apart. It wouldn't. But I didn't take any chances, so I came in and I had two C clamps reaching over, one reaching from this side right here and one reaching from that side. And then I just got the clamp. This was after it was dry and I was getting ready to open the body back up. And I wanted to do that on video, but it would have been a nightmare because all it would have been was just, you know, my elbow up in the camera. So I just knew it would be easier to just talk about it after it was said and done. So I chose the tight bond over the epoxy for the cleanliness and to not see the glue line. But then I knew that if I did the epoxy glue joint over here, well, the same difference. I could have just blocked it. But if you had have done the epoxy, you would not be able to expect it to truly cure until about 7 to 10 days later if it was load bearing. So by protecting it with the additional blocking, then I was able to set up um, the expansion blocking system where I opened the body back up. And then I knew it was going to be a little bit more stiff now that this side was glued, but it was really incredible. Everything about it just opened up really beautifully. And I was concerned that it might introduce cracking down here, but it didn't. It was so cool. And there was a part of me, I think in hindsight, I would have recommended just doing all of the glue work at once, but having gone through the whole clamping process in like a dry run so that you would really have an order of operations of which side do you um, start clamping first, and then at what point might you want to start clamping the other one, and then draw them together to make certain that nothing is spreading apart and stuff like that. But nonetheless, I don't regret the direction I took, but it worked out really incredibly well. And from a tonal standpoint, I don't think there's any way that it would have sounded noticeably better if I had have epoxy together. If it had have been, it wouldn't have been well. In other words, this guitar is not going to sound bad. So, not that now we can't measure it to determine them. It's a 44-year-old body of clean wood that was glued back together with some of the best wood glue ever introduced into the woodworking community. So with that said, I put a boatload of it in there, but from a very intentional standpoint. And if it started getting out of control, well, you just wipe it and clean it. And because it's the Type Bond, I love just using the regular Type Bond and not the Type Bond 2, because the Type Bond 2, I noticed it tacks too fast, and also it's a little bit thicker. This is a little bit thinner, and it's incredibly good about penetrating down into cavities. But one thing I didn't talk about, I won't talk about this much, but if you're gluing up a joint like this where it comes to a V, and you know that there's a possibility that the glue is not going to seep all the way to the very bottom, well then right there, um, after after you get all your glue work done, then you can come in, and wherever the Type Bond did not reach, then you can saturate the remnant after you've got it clamped. Then you can saturate the remnant, because you'll see the crack line where it is coming to a close. Then you can saturate with the thin, and it will literally just go right up against any tight bond or epoxy that might be in there, and it will start looking for the path of least resistance in order to finish the glue job. Because see, you wouldn't want to do this first with it all opened up, because then once you started trying to close it, well, it might have glued open back there, or it might have glued, or it probably would have glued back, but once you started pushing it, it might have broken the glue joint. So, and you're going to see where the reason I don't want to pick this thing up right now, I think it weighs about 60 pounds, but there's still the crack separation right here. There's only two additional superficial cracks. Well, one of them's pretty serious. It's in um, the claw and the spring compartment for the tremolo. There's still a crack in there, but what's so beautiful is as the glue is kind of squeezing out in an uncontrolled way, I was just able to, wipe it right there and not put all the glue on my rag. So, with that said, a lot of theory, but if you're watching this series from the standpoint of, how can you repair a guitar that you've got, well, then I think the Type Bond is a really safe route to go, as long as your wood is really clean. And then work in conjunction with your CA glue, the thin, and you should be in good shape. So let's see if I can pick this monster up. And 13 minutes, let me see where the camera is. There's a possibility I will pause and just pick up my phone, and actually just video. But let's see what kind of view we can get out of it. And I still haven't wiped off. Let me just see if we can even see it. Let me try to use gravity to my advantage right now. Oh shit. Well, at least it's clamped in. That just helped guarantee that it stayed together. It didn't need that, but this might be another one of those nightmarish videos. But let's see if I can pull this off without making a fool out of myself. You'll just have to zoom in probably, but obviously the glue that is there right now, I can take this off because this is really not really needed. What I was going to say is, after you've done your glue work, you can remove the clamps within like 15 minutes to an hour or so, and you shouldn't have any issues with separation or anything. So it leveled out nicely over there. It's still visible, and that's just, I knew I was never going to be able to get around that, but nonetheless, you can see how would I go about cleaning this out. hopefully that's in the camera. And I'll try to get a little bit closer so you won't have to zoom in too much, but maybe you can kind of see the process about as to how I'm about to clean it up. Yeah. I waited a little bit longer than I probably should have, but this will be all right. But if you recall, the bottom side of the flat up under this one was pretty massive, but under this one it was only about a quarter of an inch, maybe, or whatever. Well, it would have been, no, I'm sorry, it would have gone all the way over on that side. No, it wouldn't have. It went over to wherever the glue line is. So wherever the glue is, escaping, that's where the flat stopped. And this thing weighs an absolute ton. But the cool thing about using the tight bond is I did not risk. I'm not going to try to finish this job on camera because it'll just be annoying. But let me do some of it so you can see how pretty it'll be. And is that in the camera? That should be an okay view. Let me see if I can prop it up a little bit on this side. And then I'll spend the latter part of the video probably spend a little bit more time talking about the George Lynch body and possibly routing a humbucker. I definitely plan on cleaning up this humbucker location, but I'm not there yet because I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it. Oh, I know what I was going to say. The primary reason I'm doing this video is in the event someone's considering buying this guitar, and if they're thinking, because everyone's going to be thinking something differently. There's going to be the purist out there that would probably be concerned about, well, is there any way you could take it back to the single coil bridge pickup? And the answer is absolutely. That would be a breeze, especially, well, it wouldn't be, I'm not going to say it's easy, but especially, I don't have any ash, but I would be able to use my Carina, the blonde Limba Carina, and take my router and clean out all of that banjo work in there and get it really precise and clean. And if there are any lines in there that are the original location, then you leave those alone. But anywhere there is like banjo work, which obviously is probably going to be to the right side of that angle for the most part, but there definitely will be some up in the left. But I would be able to make that repair and then clean it up and then reroute that position so that then it's as close to original as possible. Anyone that assessed it in the future would be able to tell that yes, someone did make the repair, but it was definitely someone who knew what they were doing. But it would give you the opportunity, or would give me the opportunity to even consider machining out the bottom of this pickup cavity location, just about a 32nd of an inch, just enough to knock off the surface and get a real beautiful flat bottom. Or even there's a possibility that you could come in, I could come in and route that bottom out about a 16th of an inch, and then machine a piece of material that literally drops down in the very bottom and now creates a really beautiful flat. And I'm going to brag a little bit here, but I'm so good at doing stuff like that there was a Les Paul replica that I was building once that had the control cavity, and originally the replica was designed to just be like a large, like a slanted D, kind of like the actual cover. but I actually machined the radiused out portion out of Honduran mahogany, precisely fit all of that into that large cavity, just like that. Just imagine it was all square, but the mahogany that I machined out had all of the 1959 internal route work, but it was epoxied in, and then there was the lip. I would pick up one that's too big, but it was such an unbelievably precise epoxy work that it was able to stay below the surface, and then I didn't even have to machine out for the controls cavity, for the controls cover. So if that makes any sense, if you can do that type work, and you need to be able to do that type work if you're going to restore a body like this and bring it back to a visual, any sort of visual. And there's a possibility I might do some of that work with this actual body, but not until after it sells or something like that. Anyway, let me check the time. 21 minutes. And I just got to stop being concerned about, I need to speed up. I'm spending too much time talking about this, talking about that. If you're watching something like this, you're definitely intrigued by watching something that, as Kit mentioned, the original owner, he was like, man, if I'd have known it had that much damage, I probably would have just tossed it. And the builder in me, or the repair guy in me, is like, oh my God, there's no telling how many 1959 pick your poison are in the landfills. Nothing against Kit, because I get it. He if anything, that might be the smart move, because you'll end up, spending a lot of time bringing something back that might not be of any value. But that's why at the end of the video too, I spent the time talking about uh, these guitars. They're not cheap anymore, and just because they're broken in half, they're nowhere near gone. And if you want to see an absolutely insane restoration, go to my very first video of restoring the guitar, and it was a Les Paul, a 1980 Gibson Les Paul Custom, that from here down, the whole top was actually, it had rotted off. All the Honduran mahogany was intact, but all the maple probably was in a basement that flooded, and the case was standing up, and it just wicked the water up. So the mahogany did not rot, but all of the maple was completely rotted out. And I restored that guitar. Didn't even have, I think it had like 20% of the neck, and the body, the Honduran mahogany in that body, that was one of the most beautiful sounding Les Paul bodies I had ever heard. And after I finished the guitar, it took 3 or 4 months to get the build finished, but it was a phenomenal guitar. And what would 80 be? Well, that'd be 45 years old. So, and Rick, I almost said your last name, but Rick, I hope things are going well if you're still watching the video series that I'm doing. But so Rick, it's Rick's fault that we're doing this crap, because he talked me into restoring that guitar. Nah, I'm kidding. Super cool guy, and a very nice project to get to do. But coming together, and you'll always see the scar, just like, if you broke an arm and you had surgery or something like that, you're going to see the scar. It'll always be there. But from a tonal standpoint, she's going to be a guitar again once all these clamps come off. Let's see if we can look at the back a little bit without. See that's because I did sand that some. Here's a little bit of trick. Any bar, aluminum bar, 120, keeps you nice and true. None of this crap right here, but just the initial preparation to start getting the guitar finished. And I feel so much better because I used I hope that's in the camera. Yeah, that looks good. I was able to use the tight line. And, this is the first time I've done this. Oh, this will be a true testament to our work. Let me see what that looks like on camera. So with that said, someone could come in, or either they could request that I went ahead and stripped every bit of this Maui blue out, and that would be a pretty tedious process because it's permeated down into the grain. But this is definitely a candidate to turn into a clear coat guitar. Okay. So, and the cool thing is, I didn't cut anything in half. There was just the more I listened to myself talk through that video too, it just wasn't necessary unless you were in a hurry, you know, and then that's usually when you screw something up really bad. Okay, so let's see if I can. It still shows. I don't know if that's going to show. It's still. I haven't done any shape work right here, but it's still going to show a little bit of that scar, but only because that break or the radial separation is going across the grain, and that's a pretty difficult one to cover. But if you were clear coating the guitar, you might encourage it to disappear by shooting just a little bit darker amber down in here on both sides. Or it might be that, you know, whomever buys it's like, oh, no, absolutely not, man. It's cool. It's a player's guitar, and I hope that's showing up. Or you could pause. But going together really well. Let's see if we can look at it from here. I know there's some glue on the top right here. I'll go ahead and take this off because, let me do this. Because it's not really necessary now. I have no idea what you guys can see, and I apologize if it's just a waste of time, but yeah, there's just so much there. It's probably difficult to see. Sorry. But to go straight to the finish line, it looks incredible. And how would you clean this up? You could just let it dry and not worry about it, or you could come across it with your chisel. I'm probably just going to let it dry a little bit because I don't want to screw anything up just to try to do the video. And also I like if you let that, I'm definitely not going to start trying to clean it with the moist cloth, because in the event there is just the faintest separation there, I want that glue in there because the tight bond can be sanded and can be stained or can be clear coated over. So neither here nor there. So in other words, try to be patient, not rush yourself. So that's the crack I was talking about. See, that crack will be the last repair I make, and it will be with the clear coat. I'm glad I'm looking at this since we got it turned around. Let's go ahead and talk about this work right here. Typically, you know, you could obviously put the cover on here, and I would suggest probably just leaving this 100% original. But if you were the type where you were trying to make all of this damage completely disappear, then I could come in. I wish I could slide that up under there. But I could come in and do exactly what I was talking about in the bridge pickup location, where I machine off just a 32nd of an inch here, or whatever amount of thickness my veneer is going to be. I could machine off, say, a 1/16 of an inch, and then epoxy or tight bond glue in a floor, and then machine it out with a router. And man, most people doing just a general walk by would never even know that there's a crack there. But that crack will definitely always be visible. So there's definitely a part of me, don't be surprised if I make that crack disappear and such by doing exactly what I just said. And I call that trickery, where you do something really unique, and that trickery could be as much as an 1/8 of an inch thick. Like if someone had routed that out in the past and gone too deep, well, then you machine a thicker fillet to add structural integrity to the center of the guitar. But the cool thing about everything here, this guitar has never been messed with other than where someone installed that bridge location pickup at one time in the past. And I've already covered that I could make that disappear. Well, not entirely. I could fill it in and remachine it, but I definitely have plans to take my. This is why I started showing this template. Let me try to get the table cleaned up a little bit. This is why I showed this template last night. I made this template to build my Super Strats, and that's even a little bit different design that accepts the massive fat brass block for the Floyd Rose. Traditionally you have your just your traditional design here, but I designed it so that we'll go ahead and go off the cuff here and talk about this because I think this is a pretty cool item. I designed it so that these little the little curl on the spring there, even if these are fairly low, I designed it so that anytime I install a Floyd Rose, I always float them unless someone requested they be just built flat. But I always build my guitars with like a 1 to 2 degree pitch neck install into the body. So I end up, not only do I float my Floyd Rose, but it is actually pitched forward about 1 degree. But I like the idea of being able to do kind of like the Joe Satriani work, where not only can you do your tremolo work, but you can do some pretty aggressive pitch up bends. But you don't want these springs digging into the body. See, that you could install this on this guitar, but this design that I've got right here that I came up with here gives it plenty of room to absolutely dive bomb to the strings would fall off the guitar, but also give clearance for a fat brass block fully deployed or either raised up. I think it's like a full a step and a half. If not, I think you probably would break your strings after that, at least the high. Okay, but if I at a minimum, I'm going to use this bridge location to clean up that location to assess what little bit of fillet work I might need to do to get it pretty and cleaned up. But I was not planning on leaving it chiseled out like that. Okay. 33 minutes? A lot of off-the-cuff information. And I can't think of anything I should talk about, like for someone who's considering buying it, because it's obviously a project, and it just depends on who might be interested in the guitar. They might be a guitar builder themselves. They're like I mentioned in video 2. They might be the type person that would have paid more for it as a body that is professionally repaired. But they want to paint it lipstick red, or either they want to clear coat it, or they want to take it back Maui blue, or they want to do that work themselves. So that's what I meant by, at a minimum, I wanted to take it up to the point to where I knew it was a very good repair, and if not an exceptional repair, that would allow them to go in any direction they wanted to. Because I don't know of any true guitar builder, luthier type, weekend repair type guy that would pay money for a guitar that's broken in half. So I probably paid a little bit too much for it, but as I told Kit, oh, absolutely, man, I don't regret it at all, because he was really honest in the auction about it being in a storage building for 30 years in Montana, and had cracks in it, and had some separation, but I could tell because see, he had already stripped, or someone had already stripped the back paint off, and the sides as well. I think I might be wrong about the sides. It's amazing how quickly you forget. At a minimum, I knew the back had been stripped, and when you zoomed in the pictures, you didn't see horrific belt sander marks, or you know, you did not see any changes to the body profile. And when I saw that, I knew that it was very likely that other than that work right there, this was one. This was a 100% original body with everything in its 100% original location. And after it goes back together, it would be very hard pressed for someone to tell that it had ever been repaired. Okay. So, I might have gotten lucky and found someone out there that was just really, really set on rebuilding a guitar with epoxy, but I don't think they would have paid me what it's actually worth. So, with that said, I'll probably end the video here fairly soon. Again, I don't want to take all of that glue out, but I do want to get it cleaned up a little bit so that my final sand work is just minimal. And I do have the there's the little piece that goes in there. It literally just fell out when I was doing the work. Initial work, very, very initial strip work and stuff like that. So I'll take the time. I don't think there's really anything else to talk about. And going once, going twice. I talked about the limba. I talked about doing humbucker work. In other words, like if someone bought that and they were like, "Oh no, absolutely not! I definitely want to have the humbucker." Well, when and I would do it in the video series, it will definitely have a humbucker, but it'll be machined out really beautiful, and all of this will be original. I won't come in here. Glad I'm thinking about this. I won't come in here and remove any of this original work. I'll just clean it up first, then epoxy in the limba, and it might be that all I do is just cut a piece, and the grain, I won't have the grain turned on a 90. The grain would be in line so that once you opened up the cavity, you'd kind of have to do a double take that it was even repaired. Now, it might be that if all I'm doing is 3/4 of an inch area up here, I'm not going to cut a block that's 1 3/4 inch wide by 2.5 inches wide that way, and then machine every bit of that out, because very strong possibility. Yes, that is the original line right there, and I think there's just only some banjo work right up in there. But if the new humbucker location machined out some of that area back there in the back, then that is just what it is. Because I'm so glad I'm thinking about this. The reason I'm showing this work right here is because I've got it designed so that the location of the pole pieces on your bridge pickup is I almost said architecturally correct. It is, from an engineering standpoint, it is exactly where it is supposed to be from a tonal standpoint of a professional guitar. Charvel, BC Rich, pick your point, Kramer. It's not like this pickup location is too far up here or way too close. And that's why I wanted to show this template in video too. That if, and with that said, even if someone said, "Hey man, can you turn this into a dual humbucker configuration?" and I don't care about anything original, the answer is absolutely. You can turn it into a Les Paul if you want to. But nonetheless, with that said, that one would be turned that way. But I've got these locations engineered so that it might be a little bit different on this body, because this might be a 21 fret body, something I don't know. So, but if that were the case, then I would do this machine work back here first, then remove this template and reinstall this template back so that it lands. So it lands at the appropriate relationship to a Fender fretboard. Now, if someone said, hey, well, what about the possibility of turning it into a 24 fret? The answer is yes. So you see where I'm going with this. The sky is the absolute limit. Every bit of this could be machined out. I could turn this into a 24 fret guitar. We would need to mount at these locations right here, as far as that's where the scale would need to be. But if you wanted a 25-inch scale, you see where I'm going with this? There are no limitations other than what might be there existing can be removed. I wouldn't recommend it, but what I'm saying is I could turn this into a 24 fret, 25 and a half inch scale super strat with a parchment 3-ply pick guard that I would be custom making for the guitar body, humbucker in the bridge location, maybe no pickups up there at all. So I say all that to say this: sky's the limit. I can build pretty much anything, and I have. I've built those guitars time and time again. But I'm so glad I thought about that, because it's not just wherever that hole is that some cowboy chiseled out with a screwdriver. I'll try to get the pickup to fit in. No, I would be remachining, or if like someone sent me a pick guard that they had that already pre-machined, then I would machine the body in order to receive the pick guard that they sent me. Okay, so I'm glad I got to go off the cuff there, and I could just hear it in the tone of my voice. I'm a hell of a lot more relaxed as well, because I know this thing is at a point of no return. It's never going to be epoxied together, and it didn't need it. Really did not need it. And so that's what I meant. I think it was. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. The guy you chime in all the time. Uh, oh my God, you've got like a studio up north. I'm so sorry, because you're so cool. You always chime in, and I checked out your channel. Uh, something Jersey Studio or something like that. That's I feel horrible that I can't think of the name. But anyway, this guy's always chiming in, and I checked out his channel. He's a hell of a player. So anyway, if you chime in, let everybody know that you're the guy that I was talking about. Uh, and it's somewhere outside of New York. He has a recording studio, I think. But neither here nor there. I got off the subject. I got off track there. Went sideways. But we could turn this thing into pretty much anything you wanted as far as that goes. Or I could do all that machine work per a certain scale, because I know exactly where to start or stop, and then just send you the body, and then you could put it together yourself. Okay, so I'm glad I got to go off the cuff there and talked about the only thing I didn't talk about the George Lynch tracing here, because I just made that discovery where something was kind of strange. It looked like the center line of the George Lynch. It looked like from the center line from here down that it's different from the Fender, and it really threw me for a loop in video 2 where I was trying to line everything up. So I'm not really sure what's going on, but this is different. The George Lynch is different, and since I didn't cut the guitar in half, there wasn't going to be any of that crap where I was having to drop the treble side. I'm sorry, the bass side. The bass side leaf. I don't know what I'm trying to achieve here. Let's see if I can get it to where it looks somewhat presentable on camera so I can stop talking and leave you guys alone. But I appreciate you guys dropping in. If you got any questions, let me know. If you're thinking about buying the guitar or bidding on it, maybe shoot me a message on the front end and let me know kind of where your head's at. But again, as I mentioned, I'm not planning on doing any additional work until, well, I'll say that. I probably will be doing some of the cleanup route work there. And then there's a very strong possibility that I'm going to remachine the floor of the tremolo spring and claw cavity, because I don't really want to see that split. And I know that if it were my guitar, every time I hand it to someone to play, if I don't have a cover on the back, I'm always going to have to explain what the hell that huge crack is in there. So anyway, it doesn't need it, and it would not need it, but it's kind of cool once you know that you've seen it repaired correctly. Well, then if we can eliminate the scars as best we can, well, then let's do so, rather than leaving those scars in there. So with that said, I appreciate you guys dropping in, and I will see you in the next video. Looking at the table here, I don't see anything else that I want to talk about, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.